Hey, what's going on, everyone? I wanted to make a quick video about data collection. So I had quite a few meetings the past couple days, and everyone seems to be very interested in some sort of data collection. So almost every one of these meetings, the question is, well, the statement rather is, we want to collect XYZ data on this population. To which my response is, okay, we want to collect this data, right? If we do this, how is this going to change our future training decisions? What is going to change exactly? And the reason I start there is because I think people like the idea of collecting data and evaluating where they're at, are they making progress, all that stuff. But if the culture of these organizations does not drive change being made off of these data collections, then why waste time? And that's where I think a lot of people miss the boat, is they collect all this stuff, they spend a bunch of time, and in fact they weren't evaluating what they thought they were evaluating in the first place, and then nothing changes, which leads to more frustration. So I would encourage you, there's a handful of metrics you can look at that are fairly reliable, but those would just be very simple things that are a better overview of health and performance than getting too deep in the weeds on, what's all your wearable technology say. So just to give my 2 cents here, I would be more interested in someone's relative strength to their body weight. And then I'd also look at resting heart rate. So those, and then you can add in some more stuff, but let's start there. Those are about the most unsexy metrics you can measure, but they're very consistent, very reliable, and the reason I would track the body weight is to ensure, are you getting stronger relative to your body weight, or are you just lifting the same, but now you're just a larger version of yourself, right? So I see some of these people that are deadlifting twice their body weight, but they weigh 400 pounds. It's like, well, I get it, but I would rather someone be able to weigh 200 but dead 400 and actually have the mobility, flexibility, speed, strength, power, and all that other stuff in addition to having that strength. So if you want to think of it as, I think that's what people mean when they say functional strength, but stuff that's actually useful, so that we're balancing things out as much as we can, as opposed to pursuing a singular metric at the expense of everything else. So I just look at body weight, resting heart rate. Another important one would be blood pressure, and from there you can look at just your basic lifts. So whatever basic lifts you evaluate in order to decide if is your program working or not. So the ones I like, certainly not the ones you have to use, but the ones that I like are going to be front squat, weighted chin up, and some form of deadlift. It really doesn't matter to me which one you go with, whether it's conventional deadlift, sumo deadlift, trap bar deadlift, I don't care, just so that you're evaluating that metric in some capacity. And those are my big ones that I focus on, not just for myself, but for the majority of my athletes that I work with. So before you get too caught up in all this marketing stuff of all these data analytics and wearable technology and all this other stuff, just start with the most unsexy, no technology required or very low technology required, and begin tracking those once a week. at a minimum. And, you don't need to test your strength metrics or your strength evaluators weekly, but at least monthly would be a pretty good idea. And that leads me into my final point here of, I've had to get on to a couple athletes this week who I had to have a discussion with. They were utilizing training sessions as testing, and that's not what we're after. What we're after is accumulating a lot of training sessions and then occasionally testing. Because what will happen is when you get into testing all the time, well, that's not where you accumulate enough practice. There's so much systemic fatigue and neural fatigue associated with that you cannot accumulate the practice required for effective training. So I would just be cautious with how frequent are you testing, and make sure those days are in some way, shape, or form systematically planned. Like they're either planned on a calendar date or they are reserved for a day where you have a high readiness score. So anyway, something to think about as you work through your training. As always, if you have any questions, be sure to shoot me an email, travis@dhpcoaching.net, or you can shoot me a DM on Instagram or on YouTube, whatever. But be sure to go to dynamichp.net for our most up-to-date information. Have a good day.